Welcome back to the 27, and it's that time again. Time for the June 2021 development update issued on July 1st. As we usually do, we're going to be going over the update verbatim, reviewing what Renato has to say with a sprinkling of thoughts. So let's begin. It starts off, greetings everyone. The month of June already is in the rearview mirror, and what a month it was. First, with the release of version 1.2 and the Racing USA DLC, which we were thrilled to see widely well received. Yes, it was. Followed by a hard push towards bug hunting and further improvements in the subsequent weeks. In fact, this slightly delayed dev update, that's okay, is largely because we are still at it, working on a new complimentary update due out this week. And given we've been pushing out complimentary updates over the last couple of weeks to get some outstanding issues fixed ASAP, there won't be the usual big update this time. Boo! But rather, another smaller collection of fixes and improvements to wrap up the dev cycle, almost as important as actual content. Actually, arguably more important. Our focus continues to be on complementing the work on the new features and fixing issues that have come up since version 1.2, as well as some older issues which we have been struggling for a while to track down. To this end, it's very important that users continue to submit their bug splat reports if they do run into a crash. If possible, including information about their previous steps leading to the crash, as those are most helpful to track down its source. Yes, there's been a lot of crashes to desktop issues, a lot of little bugs here and there that have been found. Hard to really track those down. You kind of need to be like a Sherlock Holmes, I guess, for, at least the programmer's version of a Sherlock Holmes. So these things I know are helpful. So if you know how to copy a bug splat report, send it up to them, and I'm sure they'll take a look at it. Continuing, this focus will carry on over July for the next big update, along with trying to resolve any pending issues we managed to track down and generally further tidying things up. We'll be pushing to add a few more options and quality of life improvements that have been commonly requested by users. Okay, great. So let's go over what we've got on the immediate horizon. Hello, Hockenheim. We have further developments to real weather and dynamic live track presets, with some improvements to the system and multiplayer support hopefully already integrated in this weekend's update. Okay, so this has been a work in progress. The real weather is amazing, industry leading, and they're continuing to refine it. Continuing, by the end of the month, we'll also have live storage of weather data for new days. Also expect to integrate real feed for environment temperatures and humidity data, doing away with the overly generic regional lookup tables for good. And they explain currently weather from days in between releases is not stored, so real weather doesn't work for recent days and weeks since the initial June 4th release of this feature. Okay, so if you were looking for real weather, like say contemporary days of the week, it's not actually working. You have to go back in the weeks past for it to actually work. So I think there's a lot of some confusion when people are setting up real weather today. You're not going to get the contemporary weather a lot of the time. So keep that in mind. They're going to be adjusting that. Work continues also on bringing seasonal foliage to the remaining tracks. Next up for this weekend will be Hockenheim, along with its historical variants, making the trips into the long forest straits very different experiences depending on whether your session is run in the fall, winter, or spring. And those are some very nice pictures, some dandies. With the addition of Hockenheim, all premium tracks along with Bathurst, Imola, and Spielberg will be featuring seasonal foliage, along with the more discrete variations of Brazilian tracks. By the end of the month, we hope to have completed this feature and have all tracks in AMS2 presenting their appropriate seasonal foliage. That's great. All right, moving on to the physics, and this is kind of important. The biggest incoming development is the completion, I think it's meant to say, of the traction control system revamp that we've been working on through this cycle, as well as adding input bindings to adjust both traction control and ABS in car and not just via the multifunctional display as it is currently. Still on the topic of input bindings, by the end of the month we hope to offer the often requested option to map multiple commands to the same button or key. Okay, so previously traction control was, in a percentage base, very straightforward. You knew exactly what percentage of slip the traction control was going to engage. But it was rather limiting because I usually only use it at the top end of the range. 11%, 21% was usually right, all you needed. I kind of just set it and forget it. This new traction control system that they're implementing, and I think they're rolling it out over the course of time, is going to be more of a scaled version. So my assumption is that there's going to be more fine scaling at the top end, because you don't really use 70% slip. I mean, no one does that. So if it scales properly, you'll be able to fine-tune your traction control a little bit better on the top end. At least that's what I'm assuming. So that would make logical sense to me. On the AI front, this is actually kind of pretty cool. On the AI front, where we also have some nice further developments with 1.2, we introduced unique personalities to each AI driver, which means all drivers in the sim, real, fictional, or generic, have their own unique personality and skill sets not shared with other AI drivers. Within the next couple of months, we'll reduce the presence of generic drivers, with most series getting drivers, real or fictional, assigned to each car. Their personalities in turn will be substantially fleshed out, with several new variables leading to AI drivers having varied ability in managing tire wear or running on the wet, staying cool when under pressure, keeping a consistent pace without mistakes, fighting back after being passed, amongst other cool details. Some drivers will also be more skilled on some tracks than on others, with all of these elements hopefully leading up to a more varied and organic AI racing experience. I think this is actually really cool and kind of crucial for things like a career mode, so they're kind of setting the stage for that. Some series are going to have real drivers' names. That's actually really, really cool. And even if they are fictional, the fact that they're not the same names over and over again, whenever you jump into a car, you're going to get unique names for each of the cars. So that is actually really kind of immersive, and you can start getting into the racing, the custom championship modes, the career modes that are upcoming, things like that. That's pretty cool. On to UI and HUD development. While our man Dave Stevenson continues to push hard in tidying some remaining issues with the custom championship tool and adding a few more options, the work should be largely completed after this weekend's update, which means he's finally unleashed to catch up with some other UI and HUD updates, including substantial reforms to the multiplayer lobby and monitor screens. The former previews below, and expected to be ready for the weekend. Okay, so let's take a look at this picture real quick. This is what the multiplayer lobby is going to look like. Let me zoom it in so you can see. All right, so a lot more information when looking at in the lobby. You have the practice length, the date, the time of start, the time, time speed, whether or not it's synced to the race, the actual state of the track as well. So that's all good information. Down here is also very important. If you're doing multiplayer lobbies, you should peruse these settings, particularly whether or not there's a mandatory pit stop, whether or not there's damage, the fuel usage, things like that, tire wear. All of this stuff is actually pretty important and can impact the outcome of your race. As long as the session, 17 laps here in a F304 at Brands National. Okay, so 17 laps would probably take about, 5 minutes? Oh, look, it's Queeg driving. Where are the strawberries? Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, let's move back to the, let's continue with the update here. Once these are completed, we'll dive into the driver profile page. And, driver profile page. I was just reading it. I didn't even pay attention to it. Driver profile page is one of the things I've been really looking forward to. And with that, completing the development of our long-awaited multiplayer rating system finally. At least a couple of months still to go there, though. Okay, that's fine, so long as it's right. Like I said before in previous videos, we expect this to be based off of Legacy, which is basically the bones of Project Cars 2, a competition score, a safety score, and more importantly, lobby creators can limit, the type of scores that are eligible to join sessions. So if you're driving and you want a series with just really good racers, you can raise that score at some point. Of course, there's going to be the negative impact of not being able to fill the lobby as easy. But also importantly for the competition score is that your competition score will be based on how well you place in your races. So getting it to develop higher depends on not only your place but also the competition scores of those around you. So if you're racing against, say, entry-level competitors and they don't really have good ratings, your rating is not going to go up even if you win. But if you win against people with really good scores, your competition score will go up, reflective of that, even more. Finally, look at this. Here we go, guys. New content, a new Porsche. Finally on the content, while the focus over the next few weeks will continue to be on delivering more of these groundwork improvements, we still have a flashy bit of content to brighten up our next release, as the classic Porsche 911 Carrera RSR from 1974 will arrive as a free-for-all initial entry into 1970s GT racing. Emphasize initial entry. This car, the limited research I did about it, it dominated as soon as it arrived. It was basically, what did the guy say when I was watching the video? He said it was the wide tire technology era. And look at the size of the tires on this thing. Holy smokes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Look at the size of those tires. Someone figured out in 1970 that you get more grip and control with wide tires. And also on a side note, one of the driver interviews that I saw, they said that this thing had a soft suspension, but it had massive amounts of grip, and you could slide it, and it was so well balanced it would just slide around corners. So for those guys out there that don't think grip feel is important or realistic, this car might not be for you. This 3.0 liter turbocharged beast was very successful on the track and remains widely popular to this day for its racy looks, sounds, and performance. So we are naturally delighted to be bringing it to all AMS2 users. If you wanted to buy one of these things on the marketplace, you better have about $1 million in the bank. Speaking of classics, we are also currently working on revamping a track from Automobilista 1 and hoping that it will be ready for the end of the month. No previews yet, as we're still early in the process, so I'll leave you all to guess which one it is, and as well as pitch in as to which other remaining AMS1 tracks you'd like to see brought over next. I did not play AMS1, so I don't know. So all you guys out there that are AMS1 converts, take a guess in the comments. That's all the good stuff we have to share this month, and now it's time to get back to work and get this next update ready for the weekend. And I tell you what, I watched another video of this car, this Porsche 911 RSR, and the sound is absolutely godly. So there you have it, the June 2021 dev update. This weekend I expect the monthly update changelog to be published, so I'll be going over that as well. Oz and I are planning on doing another Boltcast relatively soon, and we're moving right ahead with builds, so continue to stay in touch. Until then, thanks for watching and take care.